I am your host, Sharon Rolfe, and you are listening to Fresh Courage coming to you on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. And my topic today is building strong communities, and it's really about volunteering. And um, Albert Einstein said, only a life lived for others is worth living. How do you fit with that saying? Does that resonate with you, or have you checked it out? I remember back when us boomers were young and impressive, the Peace Corps was started, and what a strength of building communities around the world Peace Corps was. And maybe it's time we do that again. So here's another quote: there's no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. And that's by Margaret Wheatly. I followed her some over the years. And I think our speaker today can relate to that. Another one by Coretta Scott King says the greatness of community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. And we're going to hear how Corky Frady has worn many hats in that regard. Currently, Corky is executive director of SAC Cancer Foundation. Now, there's a place where volunteering could certainly help. He's also been the founder of Prep Eligibility Center for helping kids get into college scholarships on the athletic area. He's had Cork and Company on KJR radio for 7 years, talking about golf. And in years past, he was assistant store manager for Tommy Bahama. He was the CART chairman mayor for Corkyville, as a volunteer at the Boeing Classic for 6 years. Man, he's coached baseball for 26 years and was the bureau speaker for the Goodwill Games in 1990. So he's got marketing and event planning and sales skills all wrapped into this one package. Welcome, Corky.
Thank you. Good morning, Sharon.
Hi there. So, what are we going to learn today? You've got some wisdom to share with us?
Well, everybody has an opportunity, I think, to volunteer. They just have to take the first step. The first step is ask somebody if they can volunteer. It's fun. It's amazing what you can do with your intelligence. You see, everybody focuses on college degree for this, college degree for that. But you know, every one of us, you have this degree. Sharon, you've got an LE. I have an LE. Zach over here to my right has an LE, doesn't have as many years as we do. But the LE is for life's experiences. And why keep them to yourself? Why not share them? That's how it starts. There's actually no reason for not doing it.
So Anne Frank says there's no one becomes poor by giving.
Oh no, that can't happen. You become rich by giving.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's just no way you can lose anything by volunteering and show that you care about something. I've worked with kids for a long time, and it happened after a basketball game. I'm not going to tell you the year because I can't remember what year. Nor do I want to well, I could disclose. I think it was 1965, 66. And I was approached following a basketball game with a gentleman that asked if I would, if I had the time that summer to assist a gentleman in coaching a baseball team in Lacey. I am born and raised in Olympia. And the gentleman asked me if I had time to help out this gentleman. And so I did. And it was a blast. The kids enjoyed it. So next year, that gentleman left to take care of his family. And I took over the team, and we had a very good year. And that developed in being asked to coach a bunch of older kids, and we had an extremely good year. And that just led from one thing to another. At that time, I was starting my career with the phone company prior to active duty in the United States Army Reserves. I didn't volunteer, uh, and that led to one thing and another. We moved to Aberdeen, and I coached a very successful Babe Ruth team there, and was head coach at Grays Harbor Community College, assistant 1 year, head coach the next year, prior to my wife Linda being transferred to Seattle with at that time Pacific Northwest Bell. Moving up here and moving right to Edmonds, we had 2 children, and it opened all kinds of doors that you just don't find other places. And just one thing led to another. Been in the sporting goods business as an area manager for a national firm. It just led to more on my resume. Uh, I've always been able to do this. My family has said, "Oh, this is cool," and the kids would go with me. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So why is this important or relevant, Corky?
I think it's important and relevant, especially more today than it ever has been. There are a lot of people in need. They need help. And I'm talking about anybody from just being born to, let's go older than me, 76. Uh, any age, really. Seniors need help. Kids need guidance. They really do like to talk to people who have had some experience in the world. They like to hear
Mhm.
your thoughts. They like to hear what you've done. I think that people sometime in our society right now are afraid to share some of the things they've done. Why keep it? Why keep it all? If you keep it in your mind, you don't have any room for anything else. And the other thing is, I think the area that you live in, the world in general, becomes better when people see your smile, they feel
Mhm.
the warmness of your heart, and they know that you're there, not receiving any income or anything, but you're there to better their surroundings.
You care. Yeah, I have always felt strongly about people need to feel heard. So, does it take any skill to listen to people? It could that's
Uh,
where we all
the
fit
only
in,
s-
right?
the only skill you need to listen to people is being able to not speak.
Hmm.
Listen to them. Listen to
Mhm.
what they need. I can't think of anybody or any organization that does not need help. I mean, our public schools look for teachers assistants. They look for people to come in and read to the kids in elementary, in kindergarten. The they're overworked. They have many kids. Why not go to the school someday and say, "I've got a couple of hours, 3 days a week. Is there anything that I can do?" Oh, they'll find something for you to do. And it just goes on and on. Take your church. You know, that's a vital importance to us as we live. We have to understand that communities were built by a gathering of people. Now, are all these people free and unencumbered with tragedy? No, but you don't know about it until you talk to
Yeah. And what does it cost to give a hug, and how much you can't get a hug over the, like button or
them. You
so,
know what you find out when you when you find out that you want to volunteer to give somebody a hug? That might be a lot of fun. Whoo, you might find somebody that, "Oh, that's the best hug I've ever had." But you want to be aware of the options you have. There are so many options. I can think of one right off the top of my head. Well, there's no hair up there, so it's easy to think about something off the top of my head. I can feel that hospitals need volunteers. They're always welcome to volunteers. And it doesn't make any difference. Excuse me. It makes no difference whether you're 25, 55, or 75. They are looking for people who care.
In
They are
fact,
looking for people who care.
in fact, they're looking for caring so much that they bring animals, dogs and cats in to help share their love, don't they?
Yes, they do. I have enjoyed of all the volunteering I've done, and I've had fun, and I've gotten to travel, and I've gotten to see many activities, meet some really nice people. I can't think of any greater place to volunteer in the Seattle area than Children's Hospital.
Mm.
I just can't. I mean, they have hundreds of volunteers doing a great variety of items. When I started, I was in the coloring room. I was in the arts room with kids. And I found out I can still keep it between the lines, and it was fun to work with these kids. And then their parents would come in. And then I moved to the volunteer office. And my job when I got there at noon on Mondays was to make sure that the day operating room had sufficient wheelchairs. Go figure. Here's a 7-story building, and there he is every Monday at noon, searching for wheelchairs to make sure that the outpatient surgery had wheelchairs. What a blast! The nurses were comical. Well, they usually are, and it was just fun to do. Uh, it was it. It was amazing how I felt, and it was amazing to talk to the other people that were volunteering at the hospital.
So let's get back to fresh courage.
Hmm.
It took some courage that first time to say yes, right?
I don't know if it was courage or ignorance. uh,
It worked.
oh yeah, but you see, that was before we had to fish with barbless hooks. When they hooked me, the barb stuck. And the other thing that I would tell these people, if they're going to volunteer, don't miss a meeting. Don't miss a meeting. Never ever miss a meeting. Because if you've gone to one meeting, there are people sitting there that know you. You miss a meeting, I guarantee you, the next time you answer the phone, you've been chosen as chairman of their next fundraiser. Okay, you have that's the way they work.
So in this case, you were doing athletics already, right? You were pretty good at that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that was kind of what opened the door, was already being engaged in athletics, and then somebody said, "Well, how about you're such a congenial guy, why don't you come help us with this team?" And then you were good and they liked you, so then, "Oh, Corky, you just handle it. Go ahead and take care of it," right? So
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what happened.
did your wife work with you on some of these things? Because I would think to be really, you said you went to a state championship one year. I imagine that
Yes,
partnership
ma'am.
would make an impact too, right?
The partnership that Linda and I have had during all this time, especially with the boys, was I was Coach Corky, I was coach, and she was Mrs. Frady. She 26 years. Hey, Coach, Mr. Frady. It was always like that. We
Uh,
had a great partnership. We have 2 children. Kristen, who resides here, Kristen Stone, who resides here in Edmonds, has 2 of our grandchildren. Our oldest, Kevin Frady, is the head baseball coach. There's a surprise. I know that's just going to overwhelm you. He's a head baseball coach at a small school in Winfield, Kansas, Southwestern College. And he coached for me a couple of years while he was playing baseball here in the Northwest. And he's continued after all these years. He is married, and his stepson Will is our third grandchild. And oh, here's a surprise: Will is quite the baseball player. I don't know how this all goes on. Somebody's got contact over us. I'm sure. I'm sure somebody's watching out for us. Uh, yeah, it's just, and once you take it on, you develop an attitude of learning.
mhm.
You know, you that's that life's experience that I'm talking about. You take something on, you see somebody you can read about in the paper every night. How about a food bank? Do you
Mhm.
know anything about a food bank? It's just like shopping for somebody else, you know? And all you have, you're given hours and you can participate with churches, with cities. We have several food banks right here in Edmonds. I washed dishes at Annie's Kitchen for 6 years,
Wow.
every Wednesday night. Yes, my wife wanted to know how I qualified for that, and I told her I watched her for many years, you know? That's just what you have to do. Does it take courage? No. It just takes that, "I could do that. I can do that." Or you see something happen and you feel sad about it or you're upset about it, you know, "I think I'm gonna go down and see if they need some help. I can do that. I can do that."
Well, and I think of how my mom would always, remind us, and it seems like you don't hear this anymore, that when you do for others, there's a warm feeling that comes back to you. So you both win, and, there's sure, it's work to begin with, but, you might find that you get a joy out of doing the volunteering. Do more of what gives you joy. So that joy has just been feeding itself in your life, hasn't it, Corky?
Yes, it has, and your life is, sometimes described as a book. When you're born, the book starts. When you die, the last chapter is written. But
Mhm,
it can also be called a journey. Hey, guess
mhm.
what words are in journey? Joy. Joy. You can make your journey have a lot of joy by just reaching out and helping somebody. Just help somebody.
S
It,
so
it,
let's
it can happen every day.
Yeah. Let's go back to how your volunteering, and especially when you've got a award-winning team, you've been pouring into these kids more than just the ability for the game, haven't you, Corky?
Uh, oh, yes, I have. I uh, I still see quite a few of the guys.
Mm.
It's a very interesting thing when you get earlier on in my career when I got a request from this young man's wife to be the MC at his surprise 50th birthday party, and I'm thinking, what? He j- he just played for me. How can he be 50? And then you get invited to a wedding where their children are getting married. What?
How did this happen?
How'd this happen? And you that's one of the things that you do when you take on an item like this is not only do you take on the item to be a volunteer to help, but you take on the item to share. And I don't just mean your time. You share yourself. I mean, look
Mhm,
at you. Look at what you're doing. You're sharing, Sharon, part of Sharon Rolfe.
mhm, mhm.
You're just a lot younger than I am. Uh, but that's what you do. You want to share. You also when one of the things that took place in 1984 here in Edmonds was Fred Shull. He had been the head baseball coach at Edmonds Community College. He was a teacher at Edmonds High School. He took on the head baseball coach at Edmonds High School. He and I had been in college together. We had maintained contact for a number of years. Uh, Edmonds played Grace Harbor. He schooled us. I knew it was coming. Uh, we were seeing a lack of kids moving on to college.
Hmm.
We
Mhm.
were seeing a lack of them taking the skills they had in baseball to another level. They loved the game, they wanted to play, but for some reason, there wasn't any movement. So we decided in 1984 to start the Edmonds Baseball Association. Within the first 6 years, we had 5 state champions. Never happened before.
Wow.
5 state champions. And I mean, we had a junior Legion state champion. We had a senior state champion in 1990. We had a Connie Mack state champion in 1986. We had a Mickey Mantle state champion in 86. And we had one other one. But in 1990, our kids on the senior Legion team, we had a great year. We had a fun year. Oh, man. We went to Canada a couple of times and played. Surprised I can still get across the border after taking that crew up there. And they went into the state tournament there were 8 teams. They went in as the 8th seeded team because we hadn't played as many games as everybody else. And we had a great time. We had a great time. We the guys still talk about it. Unfortunately, during your time in doing this, you have down moments. I had one of those end of November, 1st of December, when I had to attend my 7th funeral of a former player.
Hmm.
And some of the other guys were there because this young man, Mike Bender out of Montesano, was one tremendous athlete. You have downers like that because that's part of life. And at the same time, the other young men that were there, or older middle-aged men that were there, all they wanted to talk about was baseball and what they had done in their careers. And so being there and hearing how much a part of their life you were
Hmm.
is rewarding without any type of monetary compensation.
Hmm.
I find that in working with just about everybody. There's just no substitute for the value that is placed on your life by taking your time and sharing it. Just isn't.
So that whole social network, you get tightly woven into, and they become connected for the rest of your life, is what you're saying then.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Because as we grow up with our kids, and other parents will say the same thing when they're in elementary school. Your circle of friends are people with elementary kids. When you
Yeah.
go into high school, your circle of friends are with the people around the children that are with your children. And so if your child's a football player, most of the people you're going to be around are going to have football players. If you're And so on and so forth. With our daughter, it was the same way. She went to a different school than Kevin did, but our social activities were a lot of times centered around the families of the kids she went to school with.
Yeah, I'm still blown away with anybody that I happen to be in high school with that I still have touch with. Not a lot, but it still is. How could have we known that 50 years later we still are in touch and know each other? So, well, thank you for listening to Fresh Courage. And we're talking with Corky Frady today about building strong communities by volunteering. So stay tuned and come back as we talk to him about his foundation work and how we can help him do what he's doing. So, welcome back to Fresh Courage. It's your time to shine on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. And I'm your host, Sharon Rolfe, and my guest, Corky Frady, is here with me today. And we've just been talking about some of the teams that he's been successful with and how that camaraderie and tight relationships, teaching, coaching, motivating, um, plays on for years and years and years to come. So, is this a natural gift, Corky, or what do you get out of it?
Oh, I probably get way more than the people I work with. Um, I really do. I get a tremendous rewards from it. I feel so good about what I've been able to accomplish. The people that I've worked with. There are several other areas in which I've worked with. I've been a facilitator for NAMI. Uh,
Yeah.
I just had, because of my foundation, I just had to leave that position. But NAMI is a national affiliation for mental illness, and I uh, I was a facilitator here in Edmonds for 5.5 years. I just loved it.
Mm.
I loved listening to the people. I loved working with them. I loved seeing the changes they made in their lives. Not only if it was just for them or for their children. It was fascinating to be able to speak to them and use some of the things that I've been able to do in my life to give them some hope for what was going to be happening to them. Very rewarding.
So it kind of naturally flows from you then. Is that what you're saying?
I think when I was younger, it was the flowing information was defined with 2 letters, but we won't go there. It has to do with a farm animal. We won't go there right now. No, one of the best things was when we moved up here in 1980 because it's such a large area and there's so much going on. There's so many people. There's so many issues taking place. People need counseling. People need help. People just need somebody to talk to. And that's always been something I was fairly capable of doing, just talking to them. And I enjoy it. I enjoy listening to what other people are doing, you
And
know.
you find it easy to say yes. Is that right?
Um, well, I've picked up a couple of good tidbits along the line. Once you volunteer for something, as I said earlier, don't miss a meeting. Don't miss a meeting.
What
I've been in the
happens
chair. I've been
then?
Well. I was in Anaheim, California, at a sporting goods convention, and I got a call from an individual at the University of Washington, and they had a meeting where they were trying to put on a golf tournament for the American Heart Association. And I got this call while I was in Anaheim, and he called to congratulate me because I was just named the chairperson for the golf tournament. And they said, "Well, what do you want to call it?" I says, "Oh, if you're going to have one for the Open Heart, it's going to be the Open Heart Open. That's what we're going to call it." And that ran for 12 years. We raised nearly 14, $15 million in 12, 13 years. Uh, it's a great cause. We had a great golf course. We had great players. We had great people donating to the auction. It was a good setup to begin with, and I just said okay. And 10, I think it was 9 or 10 years later, I turned it over to somebody else. But it was a blast, and to see what we're able to accomplish, and because of what we accomplished, we were able to see other people want to join and take part in what we
Yeah.
were doing.
Yeah.
And you know, uh, success for one, if shared, will provide a good stepping stone for success from others. You know, it's just, you know, I don't need trophies. I don't need plaques. I just want to see people smile. I just want to see people smile. There's so much tragedy in our world today. Let's develop a warm heart. I don't mean you have to put a space heater on your left chest, okay? You don't have to do that. You've got it. You've got the ability to have a warm heart. Just do it. Oops, there was a shoe commercial. Uh,
So,
that's all you have to do.
how can boomers find ways to show compassion and caring for their community? Give us some ideas. You've given several, but um, are there some other different ways? You mentioned the bank and
There's food bank. There's childcare. There's childcare. You have to take class. You have to be approved. Now I understand that. There are churches. If you belong to a church, don't just leave on Sunday. Don't leave on Sunday. If they have a breakfast, like we know our church says, Sharon, don't just take food away. Take knowledge away. I
yeah.
know you're getting some knowledge from being in the church, but take personal knowledge away where you can interact with other people that are there.
Mhm.
Ask questions. Senior centers, they're always looking for people to help about the people that come there. The people that come there are also looking for a good volunteer, one that can read, one that can talk, one that can share things that have gone on, whether it be in about the community, the world, or just yourself. Uh, like I said, food banks are dynamite. They always are. Anything like that, you can do things during the holidays. Deliver food, deliver dinners. Here's one for you. Why have the same Thanksgiving over and over and over? Why not go to one of your local uh, places that house needy people? And heaven forsake, let's go serve
So
Thanksgiving
yeah.
dinner.
Mhm.
Oh man, you get in that line, and people come by to get their food and everything. They're smiling, and when they say thank you, they mean it because that had a lot of value to them. There we go. We just created a community of two people,
Mhm.
you and the person you're serving the food with. That's a way to create a community.
So, Corky, have you gotten a sense of how your volunteering has strengthened your community?
Where'd you come up with that question?
Well,
Yes.
that was kind of my topic, building stronger communities. And um,
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I can tell you that being in Annie's kitchen, strict to that community, because the people knew you were going to be there. They sought you out. You always sat down with them and had a chat. Next thing you know, 2, 3 weeks later, guess who's there and serving? Those people. They're there. They have seen what we were doing, and they've come back. Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Even back washing pots and pans. I just get people all the time. You're having way too much fun back here, Corky. Can I help you? Can I do the rinse? You know, and that brought joy to those people. Also, it brought joy to me. You know,
So
maybe I could sneak out early. Never happened.
your your laughter and your joy was contagious, just like if we were grumpy and ticked about having to do this and was pressured into it. Does that spread? Well, yeah, it does. You don't recruit
Yeah.
people with, that kind of attitude. So you found a way to spread your joy and love the smiles from other people. There, that's
Oh, I
where
love
it
it.
was contagious
Oh
for
yeah.
you.
And I love the hugs. I love the hugs. The
Mhm.
hugs afterward. I love the hugs. And I just think that's your being there with your enthusiasm and your smile and your warm heart carries over. Others see it and they want to do it.
Mhm.
It's
And
just, you know,
talk about contagious. Wow. We need something contagious. So let's see. How do I find places to help? You said the senior center, people in need, the children's hospital, any kind of hospital,
any
actually.
hospital. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know when I lived in Tampa, Florida, our church took on there was a group of people that would, minister to crack babies. Now, that's a special kinda need a person, and all you really need to do with a crack baby is hold them. They needed holding
Yes.
so desperately because that was the healing part of, touching them. So, um, there's I mean, where are there places not to help actually is might be a better question.
Uh, I don't know. I can't list those. I I can't listen. I don't like negative. Okay, I don't like negatives, and I cannot tell you where I wouldn't go. But you have just brought up an interesting volunteer position. This is the supreme volunteer at any hospital, especially a children's hospital. And there
Mhm.
probably you could probably go to any children's hospital near you, and you'll find a waiting list for this one job, and that's in the nursery holding a newborn
Mm.
and having to sit there with this baby you're afraid to drop and all of a sudden they'll hand you a bottle and go, "It's time to feed." And you're going, well, you've done this, but it's been 45 years ago or 10 years ago or wherever the case may be. And you do that once, and I'm telling you, you are hooked. You you are really hooked. You go into any children's hospital, and they got you. And our hospital here, Seattle Children's, one of the best. Are you kidding? Get on that list to hold babies? I'm not going to live that long before that list goes down. But it's so much fun because that infant, whether it be 4 months, 6 months, 18 months, you sit there and talk to them. Guess what they remember from that meeting? Guess what they remember?
How much you
Your
care.
voice. Your
Oh,
voice. They
okay.
hear your voice. And
Hmm.
you know, the other thing that's sad about this is when we talk about kids, who's going to replace us? And do you know who's going to replace you? I don't think Zach does. He's sitting over here with a headset on, listening to you and I talk. Who's going to replace us? You know, there are a lot of children born in these hospitals that their parents don't stick around or their parents don't want them.
Hmm.
And just think, you got a 2-year-old in your arm, you're talking, you're playing with them. What are they going to remember? Your goofy voice.
Well,
It happens.
let's take another break here, and we're having such a good time. It's hard to stop. So let's stay tuned, and we are going to come back and tell you how we can help Corky. Okay, thank you for coming back to Fresh Courage. It's your time to shine on the Transformation Talk Radio. And tune in, Talk Radio with my guest, Corky Frady, and I'm your host, Sharon Rolfe. So, um, Corky's got some ways he'd like to recruit us, I hear. What's that about?
Well, during my time at Children's Hospital here in Seattle, they several years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they came up with a research program uh, for finding the cure for cancer, for pediatric cancer. First venture into it was into leukemia. Thus far, they've had, I think they're on their 7th trial, but in the the leukemia trials, they were 94% successful.
Wow.
They have, in October, they just opened this brand new, beautiful building, 12 stories in downtown. Uh, it's called Building Cure. The program is called CureWorks, one word, CureWorks, and they're going to find a cure for cancer. It's the only facility of its kind for pediatric cancer in the United States. Dr. Michael Jensen, who I refer to as a walking miracle man, is in charge. Might I also say he has a great sense of humor. I was, through my volunteering and stuff, I was asked to look at something for the hospital, and I did, and we couldn't do it. So the program at that time was Strong Against Cancer. Russell Wilson was the spokesperson for it. So I created a foundation called Let's Sack Cancer, SACK, Let's SackCancer.org. Now, we're the only foundation for this research. We're located at letssackcancer.org on the internet. This week will hopefully be linked both to CureWorks and to the children's site. All of our monies raised through our foundation go to research. They go to research. There will be a cure for cancer. You listening, Dr. Jensen? There will be a cure for cancer, pediatric cancer, forthcoming out of this. 94% successful in the trial only leaves 6% of work to do.
Mhm.
That's huge. and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see these kids. It's pediatric cancer. That means infancy, birth to 19. Uh, you know, and the first thing, in addition to finding a cure for cancer, is finding funds to fund this work, and so that families from all over the world now can come in contact and exercise their ability to be accepted for trial or for the process. Yeah, the process is called immunotherapy, and it involves a withdrawal of a cell from from the child. They send it here to Seattle. They create uh, a T cell to go with it. They send it back to the child, and through immunotherapy, they see their success ratio go skyrocketing. Have you ever seen a Pac-Man? You know, the guy that goes through and does this in one of their films when they're showing, some explanation on what it does. When the T cell is injected into the patient, it's just like this. It only attacks the cancer cells. It only attack. It's fascinating. I mean, they develop billions of these cells through this process, billions, and they get in there. They're just like a little Pac-Man. So I worked with a great crew at Children's, Eve and Jana and Eric and Linda. They're fascinating. They are. It's like having a team, which I guess I'm the head coach, but I got four of the most capable assistant coaches that anyone could ever find. And the key to our operation is defense. Defense. You got it in your own life. You have defense in your own life. You have it
Yeah.
when you drive. In athletics, one of the most key things that will win for you is playing good defense. CureWorks is the number one defense in the world against pediatric cancer. Nothing better. Nothing. If you can cure it at infancy, you're going to cure it. You know, if kids are still going to pass, I'm sorry, but we're not going to quit. We're going to keep going. So if there's anyone that's interested in looking at it, it's letsthatcancer.org. My number is where the phone number goes, is 206 356 3011. Again, that's 206 356 3011. It's just fantastic. It's thrilling. It's exciting. And we're going to do some good. Well, they already are. We're just going to help them fund it.
So the skills that you need, it sounds like you need resources, but
Oh, yeah.
are there other skills in this cure works that people could volunteer for, or is that kind of outside of a volunteer realm?
Spread the word.
Oh, okay.
Spread the word. Use your network, and everybody's got a network nowadays. Use your network to tell your friends, your people who you work with, the people that you socialize with. I just heard about this program. It's called CureWorks, and they're working on curing pediatric cancer. It's amazing. It's
S-
amazing. Every one of us has had cancer in our lives, and this is really special stuff.
Especially
Really.
for the kids. We
Oh
just
yeah.
had a Super Bowl weekend, but it reminded me of 4 or 5 years ago when Hyundai did a commercial that talked about their foundation. Every time somebody buys a car, they donate it to pediatric cancer. That
Yes.
so grabbed my heart because I've told many people that little ad and had tears in my eyes when I was doing it. So it was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So,
here's our
go ahead.
excuse me. Here's our goal. Let's set cancer. Cancer's a virus, a bug. It's an illness. Okay. Our goal is to put the bug, cancer, in the bag.
In the
Sack.
bag. Second.
In the bag. Put the bug in the bag.
Okay, so I would like to also tell you that my website, if you're interested in what I'm doing here and Fresh Courage, is I have a website called effortlessvitality.org. And if you can't tell, I'm wanting to inspire possibilities and purpose for baby boomers, especially, but anybody that has time on their hands to do things that come from your heart, because it should things that come from your heart flow, just like you've heard Corky talk about today. And my little art blocks, if you're interested in any of these, are on the Etsy website. My store is called Quilted Petunia. And let's see, I think that's kind of the main thing I need to tell you. Um, I wanted you to encourage you to stay tuned and tell others about Fresh Courage podcast. And any closing comment, Corky?
Yep. One comment. You got a journey you're on. Put joy in it. You're going to love it. You're
Thank
going to
you.
love it.
Cool. Thanks for being
Thank
our
you.
guest, and we'll see you again next week.